Hello and welcome to a special video that happens every once a year on my channel. Yes, the Premier League is back, baby. Hello and welcome to a special video that happens every once a year on my channel. Yes, the Premier League is back, baby. And I'm going to be doing some Premier League predictions, of course, for the 2023 and 2024 season to see whether or not who's going to go down to the Championship, who's going to be playing European football, who's going to be a mid-table team by the end of this season. That's all going to be on this video. We all know there's only a couple days from now until the first games of the Premier League season. There's going to be lots of action and drama throughout the next 10 months of Premier League drama, of action and entertainment for all the football fans who love watching the Premiership. And I'm going to be doing my Premier League predictions right here, right now on this video. And let's start off from the bottom of the league right now. The first team that I'm predicting to go down back to the Championship for next season will be Sheffield United last in my predictions. Well, Sheffield United have not really done enough business in the January transfer market to convince me they're going to be a team who will be in the Premier League for another season. I could be wrong. You never know. Sheffield United actually did very well when they were in the Premier League under Chris Wilder. They came ninth, they did. And then the following year after, they went straight back down, second season syndrome. And they had two stints in the Championship following after that relegation in 2021. And they got themselves bouncing back up to the Premier League. They sold one of their top strikers from last season. Ndoye has left to Marseille. And there's no really many players that they've actually tried to sign and to replace him. And they're a bit of a worry, in my opinion. I think they're one of those one-season wonders under Paul Hickenbottom. And I think his team will be going back down to the Championship. There's no way that United are going to stay up, in my opinion. If they can get some business done before the end of the season, they could do. But I'm predicting Sheffield United will be the first team, my predictions will be going down to the Championship once again on this prediction. So I've decided that Bournemouth will be the second team, will be heading down to the Championship with Sheffield United next season. It's been a very crazy summer for Bournemouth as they sacked Gary O'Neill, who kept Bournemouth comfortably in 15th place last season. All the bookies, and myself included, thought that Bournemouth will be going down last season, but I was proven wrong. And maybe again, I could be proven wrong again, because Bournemouth have made some couple good signings. And they've got a new manager who's done really well in La Liga for Real Vallecano, who made them miraculously kept them in the league, as they were favourites to go down in La Liga, but they came comfortably mid-table last season. And now they've purchased him as the new manager for Bournemouth. And maybe he might make miracles for Bournemouth this season, maybe. It could happen. But they've signed a top familiar striker, Justin Kluivert from Roma, for $9 million. And added the other four additions into the team as well, have signed for Bournemouth also. I did actually hear that Bill Foley, the owner, in fact, I can apologise, the owner of Bournemouth, said on Talk Sport that the only reason why he sacked Gary O'Neill is because he wants to play good brand of football down the south coast. And this could be a huge gamble, it could be, for Bournemouth to sack Gary O'Neill. And that's why I put Bournemouth in 19th place. I can see where it's coming from to try and make a good brand of football with this new manager coming in, the new philosophy for Bournemouth. But I think they're going to be heading down with Sheffield United next season. So I'm going to go for 19th Bournemouth. And my prediction for 18th position to fulfil the relegation spots is going to be Wolves. A big surprise to put Wolves to be going down as my 18th position team to be predicted in this campaign. Here's why I think Wolves will be finishing 18th going down to the Championship for this season's predictions. Because they've sold Ruben Neves for Saudi Arabia. They got rid of Diego Costa. They got rid of Yao Moutinho. They got rid of Adama Traore. Got rid of Connor Cody, Nathan Collins, Raul Jimenez. Half their squad's gone for Wolves. And they haven't really replaced them at all. This is like the same thing with Leicester City when obviously Kasper Schmeichel left Leicester and didn't replace a goalkeeper. And that was a huge problem all season for Leicester City. And that's why they're going to be heading down to the Championship from last season when they went down in the last game of the season. This could happen to Wolves, in my opinion. The same patch for what Leicester had last season. I reckon it's going to affect Wolves this season. And I think they're going to be the team to fulfil 18th place Wolverhampton Wanderers going down with Bournemouth and Sheffield United in my predictions. In 17th place, surviving at the skin of their teeth, will be Luton Town. The reason why I put Luton to survive at the skin of their teeth for another season in the Premiership, because most clubs who actually go up to the top flight, like for example Nottingham Forest, have not been in the top flight for a very long time. And the exact same thing also for Luton Town. I feel that they're going to surprise a lot of people this season, Luton Town. And a lot of people underestimate them, saying they're a little club, they've got a back garden, you have to walk through the away end, and you know, they haven't got financially can compete with the tops like Man Cities and whatnot. But they come to the Premier League being very confident themselves. A club, of course, came from the National League 9 years ago, and climbed their way up, all the way up to the football pyramid, to the Premiership, the Promised Land. And we all know their stadium has got a lot of work to do at the moment, as they've got their grounds not really fit for purpose, for Premier League ready at all. And a lot of people joke and say that, oh, Erling Haaland's going to be playing in Kenneth Road. Oh, Klopp and Guardiola's going to be there. But you cannot underestimate Luton Town. They've been through a lot of crap, of course, for the last, 10, 15 years of ownership and that, and a team who dropped into the Football League to the National League and had some real huge problems. They could have been extinct from football for good. But they got themselves back into the Football League, and one step better, playing the Premier League. The first ever non-league side to play in the Premier League for the first time ever in Premier League history. And big respect for a midfielder for Luton Town, a guy who, I can't remember his name, he's from Congo, but he's been there for the last 10 years for Luton Town. A guy seen it all the way from National League to the Premier League, and he'll be the first ever player to play in all 5 divisions in one club. And I really cannot wait to see them in the Premiership next season. They did very well, of course, in the playoffs to beat Coventry City in the playoffs at Wembley. And I think with the adrenaline the players are going to have and excitement they're going to have playing the top division of English football, I think they're going to really, really, really have a good season. So I'm going to reckon Luton Town finish 17th at the end of this season in my predictions. In 16th position, I'm predicting will be Nottingham Forest to stay in the exact same position when they actually finished from last season. And here's why I think they're going to be 16th. I think Forest has still got a lot of work to do, in my opinion, to stay in the Premier League in a way. I think that done well in terms of keeping Chris Wood permanently transfer from Newcastle United. They've kept him in the team. They brought in Anthony Elanga from Manchester United. Defensively, they're a little bit of worries in my opinion, because I think that they can still struggle a little bit defensively, and I think they're going to have a lot of work to do throughout the whole campaign if they want to stay in the Premier League. But I think I'm going to put more support on Forest to stay up for another season. I think that they've still got some very good players in their team, established players now in the Premiership, like Johnson. You know, Chris Wood's obviously established player from Burnley and Newcastle. We know that as well. The goalkeeper situation, I don't know what's happening in that position. That's the worry about Forest. Obviously, Dean Henderson's loan's now gone. They haven't got a goalkeeper to be there now, because Navas was on loan from PSG. But there's also talks as well that Alexis Sanchez could be joining Nottingham Forest as a free transfer after being released from Marseille during the summer. That could happen. There's still a long way to go though, and I think with Steve Cooper in his second season in the Premier League, they're really hoping to stay in the division. That's what they want to be. A club like them, a stature like them, a team who were Champions League winners many, many years ago under Brian Clough, and the club went from that to downfall. And they deserve to be in the top division. They deserve to be. And they've got the stadium, they've got the facilities, they've got the tradition to be a top Premier League team. All it all depends on is defensively, can they be good enough in the Premier League? And I think they've got a lot of work on that, and also the goalkeeper situation. But in my prediction, I'm going to put Forest in 16th place. But they've got a lot of work to do in goalkeeping defensively to convince myself that Forest could finish a little bit higher from 16th place in my prediction. So Forest 16th, the exact same position they were from last season. In 15th place to predict in my predictions of the 2023-2024, Everton. Well, Everton survived at the skin of their teeth in the last game of the season when they beat last season Bournemouth by 1-0 by a goal from Decore. Sean Dyche has kept them in the league after being there for 6 months since he joined in January after when Frank Lampard was sacked. They haven't signed any players apart from one player, Ashley Young, from a free from Aston Villa. And that's not enough. A 38-year-old. He's a good player. He is Ashley Young at his age, at 38. But you can't rely on him. And I think that they've still got a lot of work to do, in my opinion, for Sean Dyche. You know, Dele Alli, can he be a top player in this season? Can he, live up his confidence again after what happened? Obviously, things tragically happened in his personal life, and that he discussed on Gary Neville's interview. Can he be the better player in the team for Everton this season for the Toffees? They've still got a problem striking position, obviously, with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Not scored many goals last season. The striking issue was a problem, but they did sign Danjuma from Villarreal for a loan, though, and we know that he can maybe be an established player for the Premier League for Everton. But, however, they've still got a lot of work to do. They haven't signed many players. They only got a permanent transfer for a year for Ashley Young and Danjuma from Villarreal. But they've still got a lot of work to do, in my opinion, because, you know, Everton shouldn't be in this position, really. They're a big club. They're a team who've been in the top division for a very long time. And I think there's a lot of worries, ownership-wise. I think they're the worst ownerships in the Premier League with Chelsea, in my opinion. But I think they'll finish 15th because Everton always jinx it and survive every time for the last 3 seasons now. They always have a worry, of course, of going down. But let's say 4 games before the end of the season and get results, and then they survive. And I think they will do the exact same pattern this season. But they'll finish a little bit higher from 17th because I think there's a lot of worse teams more than Everton. So I'm going to go 15th Everton to predict for this season. In 14th position to predict in my predictions, it's going to be a bit of a funny one. West Ham United will finish 14th. Well, look, we brought Declan Rice for 105 million from West Ham United, one of the best holding defensive midfielders in the West Ham team last season. They've got that money they've got from us, but they haven't spent any of it, and that's the issue they've got. There was talks of maybe Harry Maguire could be heading to West Ham United, and even James Ward-Prowse from Southampton. There was talks of him going to West Ham United, but they're not making these signings, David Moyes' team. They might have won the Conference League, they might have actually won a European trophy last season, but with the Europa League football and having them and the congestion of the Premier League on the Sunday, I think it'll be a bit too much for West Ham United, and I feel they're going to really struggle, I think, this season. They're also the threats to go down last season, but I'm only supporting West Ham to stay in the league because there's a lot of worse teams below West Ham. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if West Ham even be around, lurking around the relegation zone throughout this season. So I'm going to put 14th West Ham to keep them up because they've still got a big club. They've still got, you know, Bowen. He's done quite well in pre-season he had for West Ham United in this campaign so far. But again, not many depth of players in their squad though. They've got a small squad they've got to play Europa League football on the Thursday and then play on the Sunday the Premier League. That could be a bit of a worry. But even when they did play Europa League football, they did quite well under David Moyes. But teams can find West Ham out quite quickly, and that's a big worry for West Ham this season. But I'm going to put 14th West Ham in my predictions for the 2023-2024. In 13th position to predict in the Premier League this season, I'm putting Fulham in 13th place. Well, Fulham had a little bit of worries they've had during the pre-season period, because Marco Silva could have actually left Fulham to go and join Saudi Arabia. And not just him as well. Aleksandar Mitrovic, one of their top goal scorers from last season, was also actually planning on leaving to go to Saudi Arabia. And he's also refused to go to training, refused to play for Fulham, apparently so. They were saying that there was talks of his agent saying on the news about him refusing to play for Fulham ever again, as he wants to push a move to go to Saudi Arabia. But, however, let's talk about from last season. They came 10th last year. A very good position to be after feel like, in my opinion, they'll be going down to the Championship as a yo-yo. They've got some okay quality players for Fulham. They've got Raul Jimenez, they've signed from Wolves. A very good signing they've got for Fulham. They've got Harry Wilson, a great promising midfielder for Fulham, a Premier League quality as well. They've got Piera as well, who plays for Fulham, a very top player in the team. Willian as well. They've got some very good Premier League players and quality in their team, and also Bert Leno as well, the goalkeeper for Fulham. And I don't see that squad struggle at all to be any relegation worries, I think. I felt that last season, but Fulham's got a strong squad, a very strong squad. And if Marco Silva stays at Fulham, that's good, in my opinion. If he left, I reckon Fulham could have dropped further down the table, in my opinion. But since they've kept him and managed to keep him to be manager ahead of this season, that's very good for Fulham. But I don't think they'll finish 10th. I think they'll finish 13th, 3 places down. But That's where I'm thinking that Fulham will be by the end of the season. So 13th Fulham in my prediction. In 12th place to predict this season will be Crystal Palace. I feel that Palace could be the favourites to be heading down to the Championship in my predictions on this video. But I had a change of heart. And I say that they will survive a 12th consecutive season in the Premier League ever since they've been promoted in this division since 2013. And we all know that Roy Hodgson is now then permanent manager for a second spell as Crystal Palace manager in this campaign. And I felt quite worried about that a little bit, because to retain him as manager after keeping them up 11th position last season, even seasons before that, I think that teams around the relegation zone and teams below Palace will probably find him out quite quickly, as his coaching methods are pretty much old school tactics and that. And also as well, Wilfried Zaha left to join Galatasaray, and that was a big worry for me, in my opinion. Do I think that have I pushed my mark a little bit on Palace to come 12th this season? But I say I don't think that, because I think that they've got some young players coming through the system at Crystal Palace, like, for example, Michael Olise and also Eze, the two forwards for Crystal Palace, will be a very crucial part, in my opinion, for Crystal Palace to stay in the Premier League. And also they got some quite a good Premier League quality squad of players anyways for the last few years. And I think with that experience in my mind, and even Roy Hodgson's experience to keep this team in the league every year, I think another season they're going to be in the Premier League for another spell. And last season, Palace were worried that they could be going down last season when they actually were 3 points from 18th position. But the 10 games until the end of the season results, when Roy Hodgson came in as the caretaker boss, pushed them in a very healthy position and survived that campaign. And I think the exact same thing will happen again this season. So I reckon 12th place, Crystal Palace. 11th position to predict to fulfill the bottom half of the table, I'm going to go for Brentford. Well, Brentford had a very good 2 seasons consecutively in the Premier League since they were promoted 2 years ago. In their first season, they came 13th. Their second season, they came 9th place, nearly towards those European place. They were lurking around that. But I don't think this season they're going to be around those positions. I think 11th position will be Brentford's position by the end of the season. Okay, Ivan Toney's has been suspended for 6 months for doing something betting and doing things he shouldn't be doing, like betting on other things, on players and that football players cannot do. You can't bet, you can't do in terms of football related, and that's why he's been suspended for 6 months. He's a very good striker, he is. He was in the marks of being one of England's players in the World Cup. He couldn't make it, unfortunately, as obviously Gareth Southgate rather get another striker from other teams to fulfil his team for the World Cup. And I felt very sorry for him a little bit, in a way. But, however, Brentford still got a very good team still, regardless of Ivan Toney not going to be playing for 6 months, because they've signed 2 players from Freiburg. I know they're not really known to me a little bit, but, however, look at what Brighton's doing. Look what Brentford's doing. They're trying to recruit a lot of overseas players to come to the Premier League and make a name for themselves. And even eventually, they'll probably get sold on to bigger teams. And that's what Brentford and Brighton are doing. And I think there's no worries, I think, to my opinion, that Brentford's going to be in any worries of relegation, scrap or anything. I think they've proven to me that they have got some Premier League quality in their squad. And I think if you can keep Thomas Frank in as manager and not let him go to another club, this is what Graham Potter did at Brighton. He obviously had 6 games in, he left, gone to Chelsea, got sat there. This could happen to Thomas Frank. If you can keep Thomas Frank as well and keep Ivan Toney, I know he's not going to be around for 6 months. You've still got a couple of strikers to cover up his position, like Wazza and also Brian Manabu, also the 2 forwards up front for Brentford. They're going to be very crucial this season for the absence of Ivan Toney. And I think that they're going to buy some more players. I won't be surprised about that. Even Nathan Collins they've signed from Wolves, the top defender from last season. Even at Burnley, he did the exact same thing there. But I do think, in my opinion, that Brentford's are going to be very comfortable. They're going to be and survive easily 11th position in my Premier League predictions. In 10th place to predict this season will be the newly promoted side who bounced back to the Premier League for the first time of asking, Burnley. Last season, they were very incredible to bounce back up so quickly after losing their place in the Premier League under Sean Dyche when he was sacked 6 games before the season was about to end, and then the caretakers took his role and they couldn't survive at the end of it, and Leeds survived at the last game of the season to Brentford. And that really paid the price for the owners for Burnley to sack Sean Dyche. The guy's been really respected by the Burnley fans. And then, however, in the summer, they got in Vincent Kompany in as manager to replace Sean Dyche. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit how they'll do in the Championship. And they've really done well, they did in a way. And I thought Vincent Kompany, I think he would have really put Burnley back into the map again. Because, when he learned a lot under Pep Guardiola when he was at Man City, his methods, his tactical methods, and he did that with Arteta as well. And he did that under Erik ten Hag at Bayern Munich second team. And I think learning from Pep, a guy like Pep Guardiola, to give the influences to Vincent Kompany, to implement that into Burnley's team. And I think that they're going to really, really shock the whole Premier League this season. And I reckon they're going to finish 10th this campaign. And they're back in the Premier League where they belong in a way, according to Burnley fans and for the Burnley players and that. But I reckon they have a good year, I reckon. And I think under Vincent Kompany's first Premier League taste, I reckon they're going to come 10th this season. In 9th position is a bit of a shocker, I think, because I'm going to go for Chelsea to come 9th. Well, Chelsea have got rid of all of the Roman Abramovich's signings, of course, when he was the owner of Chelsea. Loads of signings have had, loads of clear out Chelsea had during the summer period of getting rid of those players and trying to bring in their own players in under Todd Bowley's ownership and that. They've got a new manager now, obviously Mauricio Pochettino, a guy, of course, who managed Tottenham and managed PSG. He's a very good coach, though, don't get me wrong. Nothing wrong with him as a person in terms of why I put him in 9th position. But I don't think the Chelsea team they've got are good enough, I think, to be wrapped around any European competition. Maybe I could be proven wrong. Maybe he might make a miracle, might push into Europa League places. But I think Chelsea have got a lot of work to do. They came 12th last season under Frank Lampard, under Graham Potter, under Thomas Tuchel. 3 managers in one season. And I think they've got lots of work to do to get back to where they want to be. Obviously Chelsea fans, always say that, Todd Bowley, he's the right owner and that, but I don't think he is, to be honest. I think that he doesn't have a clue about football one bit. Not have a clue one bit. And I think there's a lot of worrying times for Chelsea, in my opinion. Okay, they might have got Pochettino as the manager for the club. They got in some younger players they've signed, like, for example, Jackson from Villarreal. Had a very promising pre-season he had for Chelsea. And also they've signed another player as well from RB Leipzig, another striker. He might be okay. He's still young. I don't think maybe he could. You just never know really about Chelsea. Obviously, Pochettino did that with Harry Kane and Dele Alli and also with Heung-min Son, the younger players when he brought them into the team, and he bring them into a top quality players to this day. And you can't underestimate that with Chelsea under Poch. But with their squad and Todd Bowley's ownership and that, I don't think they're going to push themselves into any of those European places. They did sign Roberto Sanchez, a goalkeeper, they signed from Brighton. Then maybe they might sign a couple more players, they might do. They've got a long way left to the transfer deadline day until September the 1st. So I could be wrong on that. But I think they're still going to have a bad season, I reckon. Nothing changed for Chelsea. And I'm going to go for a 9th place Chelsea at the end of this season, my prediction. The 8th place predict this season will be Brighton. Last season, they finished 6th position, playing for the first time their first European competition in their club's history. And also FA Cup semi-finalist under their name. And a change of management during last season as Graham Potter left the Seagulls to join Chelsea. And the recruitment was quite quickly done to replace him with Roberto De Zerbi as their new manager. And hats off to the ownership model at Brighton, as they always know how to recruit players in their team. For example, losing Alexis McAllister to Liverpool, but they replaced him with players like, for example, João Pedro from Watford, James Milner from Liverpool, Dayhood from Borussia Dortmund for free, and also some key players who are currently there to watch out this season for Brighton. Ivan Ferguson, Mitoma is also a decent player for Brighton. And since they've got Europa League football and the league as well, I think that's going to worry them a little bit in terms they're going to push themselves again up to 6th position one more time. I think they're going to miss out on that. And I'm going to go 8th place Brighton at the end of this season. In 7th position to predict in Miss Premier League predictions to qualify for the Conference League for this season, I'm going to go for Tottenham to come 7th. I don't think Spurs are going to progress any further, I don't think, from 7th position, in my honest opinion, because I just think that they are losing their squad when the Spurs days, when they had, like, you know, likes of Dele Alli in his prime, Heung-min Son, Harry Kane, because Kane could be leaving. There's talks of him, he might be staying for another year, his contract expiring at the end of the season. There's talks of Bayern Munich trying to give out 100 million to Harry Kane to convince him to go and leave Spurs to join the German side Bayern Munich. So there's a lot of pressure on that as well, in that saga with Kane leaving the club. But they've actually done quite well in the transfer business. They've signed Kulusevski for a permanent deal from Juventus after 2 loans he had. They've also signed James Maddison from Leicester City, a very good midfielder here, to be honest with you. A guy like him to be playing championship football, I don't think that's ever going to happen. So it's good to sign him as well. And as well for Tottenham Hotspur, they're still, you know, not as great, I don't think, in terms of them pushing towards the top 4. I know Spurs, their mentality, they want to be up the top 4 position, but they don't really do anything, Spurs. They always capitulate all the time. You know, under Conte, they capitulate under him. Under Mourinho, they did the same thing to him as well. Let him down also. They've got a new manager in, though, however. Is an Australian coach, a former Celtic manager, Ange. Can he be the real deal for Spurs? I don't think so. I just think that Ange, he's not. I don't think he's Premier League quality. As all the time, always get these Premier League clubs always recruit the Celtic or Rangers managers to come and join them. Like Gerrard, for example, joining Aston Villa, that didn't work out. Brendan Rodgers at Leicester from Celtic, that actually did work out in a way because he did got them winning the FA Cup and also got them to play in the Europa League for 2 consecutive seasons. Maybe that was okay in that respect, but having Ange managing Spurs, bit of a big one, I think, a bit of a gamble. I don't think he's that level, I don't personally think. Okay, he might have went overseas and managed teams in Japan and Australia and managing the Australian national team, but I don't think that level compared to the Premier League will be right for him. And I think there's going to be a sacking, I reckon, during Christmas. So I'm going to go for 7th Spurs. I still think they're going to play European football and qualify for it because I think they've still got the squad for it. But I don't think they're going to be pushing towards more than 7th. So I'm going to go 7th position, Spurs. In 6th position to predict in this season, I'm going to go for Unai Emery's Aston Villa. I'm going to go for Villa to come 6th this season. They've got Conference League football. I think they'd be the huge favourites, in my opinion, to win the whole entire thing. And since Juventus has been kicked out of European football and not be playing the Conference League, I think Villa will win the whole entire thing. Like what West Ham did last season. I think Unai Emery's going to go in that competition and win it straight away, I reckon. And I reckon the league will be a lot good for them as well. They've signed so many good players they've got. They've signed in Yuri Tillemans from Leicester. They've signed in Pau Torres. Unai Emery, obviously familiar to him at Villarreal, who actually won the Europa League with him as well at Villarreal. And also Moussa Diaby, that Arsenal was linked into him actually once upon a time. But now he's signed for Aston Villa. And I think having the likes of Ollie Watkins up front for Aston Villa, you know, Jacob Ramsey will be a young player coming through. He'd be a good player up in midfield for Villa as well. Obviously, Leon Bailey up front will be quite sharp up front as well. You know, also as well in the midfield, obviously, Philippe Coutinho, will he leave and go to Saudi Arabia? Will he stay at Aston Villa? That would be a talk through. It'd be good if he does stay at Aston Villa because he's still got that, you know, that quality. And also John McGinn, also as well the captain for Aston Villa. He's a very good player, a very good midfielder. And I'll not be surprised if a lot of clubs will be going for him because I think he has got so many good qualities about him as a player. And he's been there since they were promoted to the Premiership from the Championship. He knows he's a very good leader he is for the Villa team. And also Tyrone Mings also at the back. Very sharp defender. Even he's an England defender as well. And I think for Unai Emery, I think he'll have a good year, I reckon he'll have in the Premiership. Even though they've got Europa League Conference League to distract them, I think they've got a strong and big enough squad compared to what West Ham had when they were in the Conference League. And I'm going to convince myself that they're going to come 6th in this campaign. So 6th place, Aston Villa. In 5th place to miss out onto the Champions League, unfortunately, I'm going to go for Newcastle to come 5th. I think Newcastle had a very good season last year under Eddie Howe. Qualified in 4th place. Champions League football for the first time in 20 years. But I think we're building them quite quickly, I think. Since the ownership came in 2021, it's so quick the transition, you know, from Mike Ashley, you know, that you know, not putting money into the club and, fighting for relegation every single year. And then obviously the owner came in for Saudi Arabia. Eddie Howe came in, done well to come 11th in the first season. Second season, come 4th in the Premier League. But I don't think they're going to do it another consecutive season. They're going to be in the Champions League once again. I think Champions League football is going to distract Newcastle. Their squad's too small, in my opinion, compared to like Arsenal's, Man United's, Liverpool's and Man City's. And I think that, losing Maximan was a big blow. Going to Saudi Arabia, I thought he'd be quite good for Newcastle, in my opinion, in terms of him playing in the European football nights, having him to play, and also Callum Wilson. They've also signed Harvey Barnes from Leicester City. They signed Tonali as well from AC Milan. He's also got some European experience, Tonali. He's got some experience at AC Milan, and maybe he could really give a little bit of confidence. Even Kieran Trippier as well. He's also European experience when he was at Atletico Madrid and also at Tottenham. He's got some experience about him as well. And also Callum Wilson as well. Is he going to score a lot of goals? He's getting on now at 31 now. Is he going to carry on that momentum and scoring goals? They got Isaac as well, striker, a partnership as well. I think he will do quite well. I think, in my opinion, for this new season, I think he'll kick on quite well for Newcastle. But I think they're going to come up short a little bit. I think the squad's going to be a bit too short, in my opinion, in my liking, and I think they're going to come 5th place. So Newcastle, Europa League football, in my predictions, in 5th place. In 4th position, to qualify for the UEFA Champions League, I'm going to go for Manchester United to come 4th. Well, I was a little bit disappointed on the transfers for Man United to sell David De Gea and get rid of him and put Andre Onana in from Inter Milan. I don't think Onana is in the same level compared to David De Gea. David De Gea was absolutely great. Alright, he might make some mistakes and that he might do for Man United, but to get rid of him and disrespect him and, get rid of him and put in one of the Ajax goalkeepers he had at Ajax, Ten Hag, it's not good enough, I don't think. I don't think Ten Hag understands, that he thinks that he wants the Man United team to be the Ajax way. Unfortunately, it's not the case because, the Premier League's a tough league and you can't rely on players you've had in your old club at Ajax. You can't do that. And I think that he's relying on that a little bit, in my honest opinion. And get rid of David De Gea was a bit of a moment, in my opinion, my predictions. But okay. But they got in Mason Mount. They signed from Chelsea. That's a good signing, that is, in my opinion. I don't know why he's number 7. I think Garnacho should get number 7 for Man United. But again, he's number 7. He's a good signing from Chelsea. However, obviously the clear out that Chelsea's trying to do after when the ownership model of Todd Bowley trying to get rid of the Roman Abramovich's players and bringing his own players in. But again, Man United, Marcus Rashford, will he be up to scratch? Will he be sharp enough and score goals this season to push them maybe away from 4th, up to 3rd, maybe, or up to 2nd potentially? So they've got the potential to do that, Man United. They've got the players to be competing for the Premier League title in a way, but I just think they can struggle a little bit. They can do. We all know that for the years they've had, under Ferguson left. They've still got that same patch of the Glazers, and the club's not run properly and stuff like that. And they're still having these issues they're having to this day. Ten Hag, in my opinion, he's done quite well, in my opinion, so far, in my statistics, since he took over the reins of Ralph Rangnick last season. He has won the League Cup. He's got them into the Champions League. I thought maybe they might struggle a little bit this season, bringing Onana in goalkeeper and taking out De Gea in, that'll be an issue. But again, you can't underestimate Onana. I think he's still a good goalkeeper. I'm not saying he's bad. I just think he makes mistakes a lot. And De Gea, he can't talk neither because he also makes mistakes as well. But I think De Gea shouldn't have gone. I think bringing Onana in would probably be an issue. But again, he's young. He's got to learn to be in the big stage of the top teams in the football, and that's what Man United are trying to do, trying to bring in some youth in and trying to give these players a chance, and that's what Ten Hag's trying to do. But I think they'll finish 4th though. I think they're going to be more quality and be more sharper, I think they're going to be. So I'm going to go for 4th place, Manchester United. In 3rd place, I'm predicting to come 3rd and qualify for the Champions League, I'm going to go for Liverpool. Well, Liverpool had a very awful season last year under Jurgen Klopp for the first time since he ran the club, since he joined in 2015. Not a good season. They had to get rid of a few players. They had a massive clear out in the summer transfer window. So you said in the likes of James Milner, Roberto Firmino, Jordan Henderson, the club captain, Fabinho as well. Oxlade-Chamberlain's also gone as well. He didn't really play any games. He was injured quite a lot for Liverpool. But he's got rid of these older players out of Liverpool. He's brought in some younger players in. Not many though. Alexis McAllister from Brighton, and also the Leipzig midfielder Dominic Shalak. I can't remember his last name. He's Hungarian. You probably know what I'm talking about. And he's brought in those 2 players only. And I think there might be more. Could be coming to Liverpool's way. There were talks of Lavia joining from Southampton to Liverpool, but he's been rejected a few moves to go there. So we'll see how that comes. But again, I think Liverpool have learned their lesson a little bit from last season. I think Klopp knows that his times could be up. I think it could be over. It could be for Klopp. He could end up leaving Liverpool. He could be, if they don't get in the top 4 this season, because that's 2 mistakes, that is. And he's been there for quite some time, and obviously maybe teams might find out Klopp's methods and that. But I think they've learned a little bit from that. I think there's a learning curve from last season. They've got younger players now, like Gakpo. They've got Darwin Nunez. They've got in as well Jota there as well. They've got also Andrew Robertson as well. I think he should be the captain for Liverpool, in my opinion. Since Jordan Henderson left, I think he should be the new captain for the Liverpool team. He's got a lead. He's leader here, Andy Robertson. I think him. Also, obviously, Virgil van Dijk, but he's getting on now a little bit. He's now 32, and maybe he could be leaving Liverpool also. And I think Andy Robertson, I do like the guy for Liverpool, and I think he should be the club captain. But again, Virgil van Dijk's a leader as well. Having that experience and giving to these players like Alexander-Arnold, a guy that, is a future for Liverpool. He might even try and move him to the midfield positions, I think Klopp should put him into. Because he is a good... he should be a midfielder. He's got that ability to be a midfielder. And even in defence as well, he can be. So they've got these younger players in. They've got rid of these older players, a few of them. And now Klopp's trying to get in more younger players into the team so that Liverpool can get themselves back into the top 4. And hopefully... The new Klopp he can generate the team for this season might even do that, and I think they probably will do. They've still got some good players. Mo Salah's still there. He's still got the pace. Darwin Nunez as well. He's a very good player as well. Alexis McAllister will be a big name to come to Liverpool from Brighton as well, from the transfer window as well, and I think they can do it. So I'm going to go for Liverpool to come 3rd this season. A very tough prediction. Who do I think will miss out on the league title? I think my boys Arsenal will come 2nd, in my opinion. I just think that we still got... Man City have got a more of a depth squad compared to us. I don't think we're going to get first. I think we'll be up there, though. I don't think we're going to miss out on Champions League or do anything like that. And I think that our Arsenal's back. I think we're back, and we are back to compete once again. And I think that we're trying our best. I think Arteta's trying his best to try and, win something for Arsenal, because we haven't done that majorly. All right, we won the FA Cup under Arteta in 2020, but not won the league for like 20 years now. And this is our 20th season now that Arsenal never won the Premier League title. And it'd be massive if we do that. But I don't think that's going to happen, I don't think that's going to happen. I still think that we've still got a lot of work to do. We need more signings We might need to get players out the door first, like a couple of them to get rid of, and get more players into the squad. And maybe we can compete with Man City. But on this video while I'm recording now, I don't think that's going to happen. But the good news is, for us, we've done well in the transfer window. We've got in Declan Rice for 105 million, a transfer record for England, to sign him from West Ham United. We got Kai Havertz. Not sure about him. I don't think he's my player at Arsenal, in my opinion. I don't think he's got that standards about him from honest perspective, honestly. We've also got Timber as well. He's also a young, promising defender for Ajax. We signed from Ajax as well. And also we might be buying the Brentford goalkeeper, David Raya, to give a bit of competition with Aaron Ramsdale for the goalkeeper role. And that's good to see that, because I think Ramsdale's a good goalkeeper. No disrespect with him one bit. It's just sometimes he's not... He makes mistakes. He makes these mistakes, and Arteta's trying to be ruthless. He wants that Arsenal to be, winning something majorly. We haven't won a league title since 20 years now, 2003, 2004 season when the Invincibles, and that's our 20th season since we haven't won a league title. And I think for us, we've still got a lot of work to do. I think to try and close the gap on Man City on that league title, because Man City have got more of a bigger squad compared to us. Still got some big household names there, even though despite Gundogan's left, and despite he's gone, and despite Man City might have a couple players leaving in that lot, they've still got a good team. And I think we're still going to miss out on that, unfortunately. I think we'll be close, I reckon, to Man City, but I reckon we'll finish 2nd in that. If we can keep, get Gabriel Jesus fit, of course, after being injured now for the next couple of games now to the start of the season. If we can get him back fit quick as possible, he'd be very good for us for this season. Martinelli will be quite good for us also, and also Saka will be quite good for us also up front. And having them will be very, very good for our team to try and even score a lot of goals this season and try and help us break the gap onto Man City. But I don't think that's the case though. We've still got a long way to go though. So I'm going to go for second place, Arsenal. For the third consecutive time straight in 3 seasons since Liverpool won the league in the 1920 season, I'm going to go for Man City to win the Premier League once again. I'm a bit bored of this, to be honest, if you to have Man City winning it back to back to back to back. But it's going to happen though. I think Man City have still got so many good players. They won the Champions League, they did last season against Inter Milan. Their team are so powerful all around the pitch. Even on the bench, they're so good as well. So talented. They've got so many good names. Even Haaland was the top goal scorer he was for the whole of the Premier League season. And I think he will do the exact same thing. He'll be the all-time top goal scorer in this campaign as well, in my opinion. And I don't think there's nothing going to stop Man City from winning the title. I think they're going to carry on doing what they did the year before that, the year before that, the year before that under Pep Guardiola. Until Guardiola probably leaves and like what probably up the Ferguson did at Man United. He was successful and dominant there he was, and then he left, and then Man United went downhill. And that could happen to Man City if Guardiola probably just say, oh, I leave and go somewhere else. Then maybe Man City might deteriorate, and maybe we could win the league, maybe so. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think Guardiola's going to be there for quite some time, and I think the Man City dominance will be there for quite some time. There's no one, and I mean no one, in the Premier League can stop Man City. You probably need to get up to 100 points to stop Man City from winning the Premier League title. You've got to get up to 100 points, but I don't think many teams will do that. And I think that Man City will win the league in my predictions for the 2023 and 2024. And that's all from my Premier League predictions that I do every once a year. And I hope you enjoy my predictions for this season's. Please feel free to leave a comment on your opinions or your predictions, how you think the teams will finish and end up this season. And that's all from me for my predictions on this video. Have a good one.